it's a good to break a bit this like polarization, this dualism, that's good or bad. And my teacher said to me that when you have these children and come back, don't start doing anything, any works of femininity and children. And I immediately started doing Those people didn't think at all, is it art or not? They were just looking something new. I've never seen this before. I have questions. This is a different process, but I feel it's an art process because I'm on charge.
Okay, today's visit.
Yes.
I'm laughing because we're recording a second time now. So today's visit is in the studio of Satu-Minna Suorajärvi.
Welcome.
In Helsinki. And we're going to repeat what we just said for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes just things happen.
It's very, I used to technological things that they don't always go as you expect.
Yeah, there's always something. And yeah, it's really interesting for me to talk with you about your practice because you said the technological thing. Your practice is very much relying on technology but in sort of an old-timey way in the same time. It's a really interesting combination of them two.
Yeah, for me, like this practice that I'm doing, it came somehow when I came back to Fine Arts Academy after I had my son, and there was this courses of how you put sculpture, for example, if you have public sculpture competition, how you put it into some place. But I got really interested about these softwares as how you could make actual sculptures with them, that I didn't want to see them as some kind of an instrument, just showing sculptures. I was more like that could I use them for making sculptures, and I asked that maybe we would have a course with these new softwares, and Gabriel de la Cruz was teaching us then how to 3D model, and there it started. So it took, of course, years to make things into actual world. At first it was like just a virtual 3D models, but it was I suppose I was living in good kind of a moment because these 3D printing machines became into market, and they were quite cheap, and they were this garage style innovations that everybody could buy them with really cheap, like 200 euros, and also the filament also was like 20 euros. So I suppose I happened to be at the right time, but I was in a way lucky that I was able to get these 3D model things into real world to 3D prints.
Materializing something, it's really always such a pleasure.
Yeah.
And you studied sculpture.
Yeah, I studied sculpture. It was very traditional, of course, and I loved this human modeling. We had every morning we were drawing human with this a model there, and then afternoons were modeling with clay, so drawing and claying, and I loved a lot about that. But then when I came back after I had my son, so I had this pause with this everything. So I somehow there was more time for new things. So you in a way wanted to change maybe what you were doing. So I had space for this new thing, and it somehow took over. And I remember when I was in the first the 3D modeling course, how I was using some triangles and balls, and how I somehow clicked in my brain that it felt so good to rotate them in this like animating objects. But yeah, I had a very traditional training, and it was a bit tearing to get rid of the old things, because of course you have to give space to new things, and I could have continued with my old practices like modeling humans. And
was that in Kuvataide Academy?
Yeah, Kuvataide Academy, yeah. So we were making this total body casting with silicones and modeling, and then taking
I've done that.
molds.
I've done that as well. I come from
resin, so
very traditional art academy.
Yeah.
They are still doing that in Sofia.
Yeah.
And not only there, probably, but
yeah. But it was a big jump to that new thing that I have to, in a way. It took some time. and I was of course a bit confused at what I'm doing and is it possible, but somehow I kept doing it and it became possible. That there was a lot of course this uncertainties, but this art school was in a way good that it helped, because you work all the time, every day you come there and do something. So I had solved many problems during my studies, so it helped me with the new thing. So I think that was the most important thing of my art school years, that I was regularly, daily working and then solving problems. And when I had this new thing coming, so I jumped into it and took my old practice that I have learned, and I still discuss with my professors that are now dead, but I still can remember and hear what they say to me, that remember that thing and how behind things are behind ear and stuff like that. But they're kind of they're discussions with us, because they were really every week they were there and discussing. It was really small circle of people, so they were giving a lot of time and energy to us.
Well, that's good. If they were doing that.
Yeah, and maybe I hope the studies would be like that more for students, that they have time for their teachers, and of course colleagues are important, that you have these friends there and you develop this kind of discussions with them about your works.
Yeah, and that's one of the most valuable things in the education generally, in my opinion. Apart from, of course, the skill that you learn there, if it's this kind of a program. But were you always thinking to be an artist?
No, it was not really my kind of knowledge to know from very early age that what is being an art, because I come from worker class family, so I didn't have this kind of an example what is to be an artist. My aunt was the art teacher, but it was not so certain what she was doing. I didn't know about art exhibitions or anything like that, but I was more, because I'm the only child of my family, I was a bit thinking that why do I have to go to school every day, and what is the meaning of this schooling system? And my father was saying, well, you have to get money to pay your food and house and things like that. And I was like, okay, but I want to have a job where I can be independent and decide myself what I do. And I was asking my father that what is the job that I can be like that? And he was like, well, lawyer, doctor, maybe economist, I don't know. And I was okay, doctors do something with humans, which was my interest. So I said, I become a doctor. And of course it was a bit funny with the people around me. There were no people who had gone to university, anything like that. So that she becomes a doctor. And okay, I said to everybody, I become a doctor. And okay, I just became doctor. That it was kind of a bit obsession for me to show everybody that I become.
It just happens, you say I'll become a doctor, and you become a
And also that was because Finnish schooling system was quite good. That I remember that we have this teacher that was especially giving instructions how you choose a profession. And I didn't know this place is called Lukio, yliopisto. They were really what are these schools? That I have to go this place called Lukio and then to yliopisto, like a grammar school or some high school, and then this university. But the names were abstract to me. So I was just saying that because after that there's this university and there's the doctor, the faculty of medicine. So I was given instructions how you do it. That first you go there and then you go there, and I was, it's a kind of a big road, but that can I jump over somehow? But they said, no, you can't, you have to go all the roads. And I went. So and there also I have to thank this schooling system, that it was a bit democratic during that time, not anymore. So it's not easy to come from, I suppose.
Really?
Yeah, it's been, if you think about that, you come from, especially if you're a foreigner, so you get lower grades and things like that. It was same for worker class kids in the old era, but it's not so democratic. They have difficulties to get, and it's always easier if you are from families where they have higher education. So in a way this system is not so very democratic. Everybody pays the taxes, but the professions go to high educated people. They have the highest educated children. But let's not stick to that. But I was in a good period. I could jump into medical school, and I liked the career, and I just because I had money and I could do my art hobbies, and I had a nice husband. But then I had been 2 years a practicing doctor, and I got cancer, ovarian cancer, and of course I had a long period of treatments and sick leave, and then I had this pause that I had to really think that what happened, and I felt a bit guilty that why this happened to me. If it causes this bit kind of a confusion that I had everything so all right and now I have no future. And so I decided that, okay, I have to really think that what I'm doing with my life. And I had this a sick leave, and I started taking a lot of art courses, and I was thinking that, and when I came back to work as I was working with the anesthesiology at that time, so I came back and I was thinking that, do I really want to spend my life in these halls of surgery and with sick people, and also there were like some colleague patients. I saw young people that were going really down, so it was not easy to come back as a doctor, and I suppose I had these artistic ambitions or interest. They were not ambitions actually, but interest at that time. So I was thinking that maybe I change my life kind of and style, that I want to do more art. And if I'm still alive after 5 years, I maybe become artist. Then I applied to art school, and I became artist. So yeah, so it was a bit kind of an cliche that you need this trauma to become artist, but for me it happened like that.
Very cliche.
Yeah.
A doctor turned into an artist. You see it every day. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But the trauma part that. But people ask me why you became, and I didn't always want to talk about, because I didn't want to be a cancer patient, so I didn't talk about it a lot. But now it's 20 years or more. It was 95 I had this diagnosis, so it's almost 30 years. So now it's easy to talk about it, but for first 10 years I'm not a cancer patient. I didn't talk about a lot because then you talk about cancer only. So it's kind of when you are with people, you don't want to talk about illnesses all the time when you are ill. Yeah, you want to talk about something else. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Maybe there was the link between what you studied about the human before that, and then the human body you were depicting in the works, and it is still in your works a lot.
Yeah, and I think there's of course there has been some kind of an interest in me about what humans are. Maybe because I'm somehow only child or something, so it has to be that I don't have had a lot of these humans around me, so I have to somehow study them, but in maybe a bit intellectual way. I don't know, you could analyze it endlessly, but it's important to me, and because it's a problematic for this kind of a super interest in fragility of human beings at the moment, because we live a bit the post-human era, but in a way I feel it's important, and in a way we are, of course, life was much more difficult earlier times, especially for females, that I always talk about this Mary Shelley, how her mother died when she was giving labor to her. So the old stories of this human, especially female kind of stories, were very important to me, because of course as a girl you try to find stories about women, that what has happened to them and how have they done science and how have they done art, and there were not many, and they were really sad stories. So in a way it's really kind of interested me, and I was thinking that maybe there would be possibilities for me to do something and develop things, and even though our earlier sisters have had not so kind of good things going on, but
we have to justify now that we exist and do something more.
And maybe that there's not this story of women what they do was not told, because especially when I had my son, and I was before that doing a lot of like works with space and light, and my teacher said to me that when you have these children and come back, don't start doing any works of femininity and children. And I immediately started doing animation and everything about sexual organs and stuff like that. But it was like you started to understand during your schooling that there are areas that are more respected than others, and as an artist you start, of course, going into directions that are not so like studied, like white areas in a map, that these are not maybe studied so much. So I made these animations and of course of these installations about kind of wild things going on with me after this cancer treatments, and I couldn't get children, so I had this my son, I had help with this kind of that how to get with babies, so I needed also like their assistance. So I mean, it all was inside me, and I wanted to like somehow
take it out
and have it in my art, even it was a bit thought that it's not so respectful, that it's much more, that my career was maybe a bit spoiled because I made lots of kind of good looking works with the lights and art, lights and spaces and like that. But I think art comes from our inner kind of needs, and art school may have some kind of that you start a bit imitating or learning from your teachers, but then later on you turn into your own issues and things like that. And I was very much for like, what is it to be a human being, and as a female artist, that was very important for me after I got my son, and like first years after that. Even I went into this 3D, but they were happening at the same time. That of course there are many things that are influencing one's work.
And you decided at some point that you want the 3D to come out of the screen.
Yeah, it was really difficult to combine everything, but somehow it just happens that I was drawing a lot of human beings and of course my family members, but I loved to see how people are walking and wandering places. And when you go to bus, you can take a notebook and pen and start drawing then how they are walking, and what is their like, where are they going, and what's their day going to be like. And I started like using their silhouettes as my starting points for 3D modeling, and I started to combining them, and I maybe combine some person with skeleton, and then I get between some kind of a form that was kind of a bit narrative stories also, but they somehow had something to do with everyday life, that it became important to me, that I didn't do so super intellectual things. I took the figure of my son and my husband and joined them together, and it was like a somehow story that was it smooth change from childhood, or did it happen so fast? I had this feeling that everything is happening too fast, that somehow I want to capture some moment into my sculptures. So yeah, very much into human figures and family members, and they're also a bit like cliches that artists is making sculptures of their son and husbands, but that was important also to me, that I wanted to.
But if they're silhouettes, who would know that that's your son and husband?
It was important for me to tell also that when people are asking, and I somehow felt that's also a bit, because I didn't put my 3D printed works to exhibitions. They were not, I suppose, at first, I tried to apply, but I suppose I didn't get these gallery times. So I went into these 3D print shows. There were also engineers with these machines, and then one female there with these sculptures. What are you doing? And usually they had, like, of course, printers, and they had printed something like you have a key, so the back of key you have some kind of stuff, so small kind. And I had this human figure sculptures, and they were like, "What are you doing? And how are you doing this?" But it was also very interesting because ordinary people came there. And they were like really fascinated, and I can talk to them, and they were like, "What is there?" And they were, "Oh, there's human beings, and who are they?" And we were discussing about my work. So also my like artist practice as how you show your works was a bit different. That of course I made gallery exhibitions, but I somehow wanted to be part of this this 3D print show things and show my works there, because I immediately saw the people there and they were like watching my works, and we were talking about techniques and stuff like that. So it started in a bit different way. I totally jumped out of like normal gallery world. Even I suppose it might have been very important, but because I'm not I don't know how you do at that moment in art world. I did it my own way.
And by no means there is one way that you should be doing things, of course.
Yeah.
It's just happened.
Yeah, it just happened like that. And I somehow like that a lot.
Was it different? I mean, it was, of course, it was different, but how was it different than when you were having actually shows in a gallery compared to talking to the people in those expos? I
felt a bit sad that you leave them there and then actually you collect them, and sometimes there are these days that you go and meet that you go and give kind of an introduction of your works, but they are very often other artists, and they were really like people who may have had like access to sculptures at all. That sculptures are usually the kind of things that maybe you see public sculptures, but not that way that you can get it to your hand and see and look what it is. So that was kind of an interesting to me that they were more like engineers or people interested about machines, and suddenly there are like artworks. And at the 3D printing era, in those shows, they usually were different kind of people, that they were designers and machine makers and engineers and software makers, and from different industry. Somebody make medical instruments, somebody make airplane parts, some car parts. So a lot of kind of. And nowadays, of course, everything is separated. Some make guns, some make airplanes. So everything is much more difficult now. But in the beginning, they were like everything was together because it was so small. In a way.
I remember years ago. I mean, this is really years ago. Here in Aalto, there was this. How was it called? Maker Fair? No, it wasn't Maker Fair. Maybe it was Maker Fair.
Yes, I suppose I have participated one of those Maker Fair.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was there with those regular guys, you know.
I went to visit it with a couple of friends, but yeah, I don't remember much of it.
Yeah. I suppose I participated one or two, but then I started making public sculptures, so I don't have had so much time anymore, like be in much that, and in a way it's kind of a bit big job always bring your stuff and things like that, and now I'm more like art scene, but as I started, because it was a bit difficult to get your 3D printed works show. It's not easy to get gallery time. Nowadays when you are a bit senior artist, so it's a bit more easier. But at that period when I was doing my first prints, so it was a bit difficult. So I was very happy to show them in that kind of a scene.
Were people seeing them differently than otherwise in the gallery when they were?
Yeah, I suppose there were people who don't usually go to watch like sculptures, or they don't go to galleries. So in a way, I suppose at that time, especially I didn't do exhibitions or go to shows abroad, but there were a lot of like artists that were showing their work. So I suppose the whole field of this 3D printing was a bit like that. There can be artists for everybody. So I think they were quite open to these new technologies, because when I started doing this digital kind of software-based artworks, I think it was not totally like thought that it's art actually. It's a bit like, is it machine made or what is it? So but those people didn't think at all, is it art or not? They were just looking something new. I've never seen this before. I have questions. I want to talk to you. And it's easy to start talking. If I now go into some kind of a concrete, for example, show that there are some companies, it's not so easy to start talking if you have just some leaflets. But if you have an art piece there, it's like everybody starts. Can I touch it? And can I? It's kind of I liked a lot that kind of an atmosphere. That it was cozy and it was easy for people to approach it and don't think so much is it art or what it is.
I remember when I was seeing your website, and there was kind of not like a description of what you do, but the kind of what you do. And you had written there digital fabrication, and I was like, oh, another person who likes digital fabrication. Because even artists who use it usually don't say it in that way, that digital fabrication is something that I'm into. And I'm very much into that.
Yeah, but it's maybe because it has a bit this kind of it may sound a bit on art.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a problem that, because I'm the kind of a person, I come from this worker class family, and I want to give information, I want to give people possibility, and that they can use these tools and they can start doing if they want it, that it's nothing super kind of difficult. So I'm open about it, but I understand that if you give every kind of an answer and everything's open, it loses a bit of its mystery. So I understand that people are a bit giving this barrier, that they don't say that they are doing digital fabrication, but I, in a way, want to verbalize a bit that I'm doing it, I'm honest about it. That's not the mystery of my work, that I don't want to keep it in, that the mystery of my work is mystery to myself. So I don't know where they actually come from, then what are my deepest desires and how I do them, but I want to keep that kind of an clear, that I can explain to you what I'm doing and discuss about it, and I want to be open about that, and I'm using this machine, that I don't keep it in a way secret. But I understand that there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and of course they want to like keep some stuff to themselves and things like that. But in a way, I feel that I've been given so much education, so I want to give it back. Give education back.
Yeah, and I think also for specifically about this term, it just sounds a bit more technical than artistic. Maybe that's, even if people are not like closed about it, I don't want to explain how I do my works, but just I would assume it's not very easy to explain to others. Okay, what is digital fabrication actually, you know? But
yeah, for me it's important that I talk about it, because I feel that it's interesting to like have this issue that I have a machine that is making something, and I have a software that is making something, and maybe someday there's AI that is helping me to do it, and what is happening there, and how it's different from this how this technology is different from other practices I've done, because I have a long history of drawing with hand and doing clay, and everything I did previously was handmade. So what's actually the difference there? What's different in my brain? It might be interesting to take this kind of brain images and see that is there any difference that are the same, because I think my hypothesis is that the same areas are working, that there's not so big difference when you are doing artistic practices, that I have not developed a new brain. I'm not that like genius. I have a regular brain.
There's no so much space in the head.
That there would be this kind of a horde of the digital fabrication artists. that I think that it's just the same areas are working. But because digital fabrication is one way how we are producing objects, so why not as a sculpture do it? That it's one way, and for me it's kind of an forms that interest me, that how I get that kind of a digital image and how it comes into object and what it looks like. So that's kind of an interest to me, that, and especially now when I'm 3D printing clay, so it's a very plastic material, so every print is a bit different, and how I regulate the pressure and things like that, so things start happening. So
how did you turn from the normal 3D printer, the plastic one, to clay?
Well, you have to have a different nozzle there, that you can use every printer to print clay, but then it's a bit easier even, because with this normal printer you have to have hot end in a nozzle, that it's like melting the plastic and you get the fumes, and it's unhealthy maybe. But with clay you just don't heat anything, you just have pressure. I have an air pressure machine. It's like forcing the liquid, a bit liquid, or with like a very soft clay through the nozzle. So,
but you have to have the heat afterwards to bake it.
Yeah,
burn it.
But burn it. Yeah. But it's different kind of a procedure, and of course there's a lot of fumes. But 3D printer is using the nozzle, so it's heating it there. So actually you're right, it's the heat is there afterwards.
You're just making it more complicated for yourself because working with ceramics is not the most easy process in the world.
No, I've noticed. I've noticed that. But with plastic, it's the thing that if you get something out, you can a bit mold it later on. But with this ceramics, but with plastic is the kind that when it comes, it's a bit like of course you can. I've seen that some people print maybe a bit thinner parts, and they have they, for example, use hot air, and the form may, for example, fall down, and it's actually the process that they're doing, but they've been thinking about it. So actually there are a lot of variables that you can do. It's about your imagination. That's why I think I go to that direction, because there are surprises and things to consider, and like how I make the next step all the time. That keeps me like thinking and trying to solve these issues all the time.
Discovering, I think this is one of the biggest things about why you would be an artist, because it's just interesting.
That's, I suppose, artists are the kind that they are more, they a bit novelty seeking personality or something like that, but like you have ideas and they become a bit compulsory and you want to do them, and then if you use, of course you can use traditional techniques, you are artists, but I happen to use digital tools like laser cutting and 3D printing and these 3D modeling software, so they are a bit new for like most people, but I'm teaching it Aalto, so I'm like now being like at the beginning of this fall with lots of people who are doing them every day. So I don't feel like it's anymore so super new in a way.
No, it's been a while since.
It's kind of a bit designers and people doing this kind of things that you use computers. So it's kind of it feels more like it's done in a big scale, and they make products, lamps and things like that a lot and sell them to people. So it's actually a big industry. So in a way I don't feel it's something super new anymore, but I like it still.
Yeah, of course. And you can, within that area, you can explore so much and make stuff new for yourself. You know, this spring I took this program in Aalto, not like a degree program, it was just like a couple months. It was Aalto Digital Creatives.
Yeah.
And they've been running it for a while, but they said that now from the next one, they're going to remove the word digital.
Okay.
So I guess it's already so well established that they don't need to put it there anymore. It's kind of a given.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, this is what I gather from it, at least. Okay, yeah.
But things are turning into digital more and more. Is it good or bad? But some people want to do by hands, but there's so much handwork that I do. So in a way, the handwork part has never left me. There's a lot of post-processing what I do, and wetching the clay is very like a physical activity that I do. So that part is always there. And I in a way wanna, because I studied a bit feminism at university when I do my doctor's degree. So I understand that it's good to break a bit this like polarization, this dualism, that's good or bad, digital or handmake. So
100%.
Yeah. So in a way, that's my kind of a basic idea what I get after university that I graduated, that try to like bring the bridges more than just divides. That nothing is ever this or that, and it somehow feels that when you say something is, for example, that not art and this is art, and so I feel that that there's this kind of that there is nothing that is this or that. Yeah,
this duality is a very common thing. I think everybody is so used to having a this or that, like one of
I think it's a bit
yes or no.
Yeah, and it's a bit like not very deep thinking, or it's a lazy thinking that if you dwell more into things, it's easy to say that it's not this or that it's not art or something like that. But if you think more deeply, for example, AI that is coming, so it's a huge issue, and there comes really new things to think about, that how it's going to change things. And of course it would be easy to say that push it away and things like that, but it's much more, I feel that it would be much more important to start thinking about those things, that what it's going to change, and be part of the change.
I mean, push it away, like away where it is here and it's gonna stay. Yeah. It's not gonna go away if you close your eyes to it.
Yeah, that's sure. That's what's gonna happen, and it's important that artists also think about these issues. My friend Jukko Hautamäki, he's this kind of an eye expert, so he's
I took one course from him when I was in art.
Yeah, and he's like this. Really, I really admire him, because he has this energy to all the time bring up these eye issues in Facebook and everywhere he goes, and it's like he's doing, of course, artworks, but that's kind of an important that artists also like talk about these issues and try to like discuss in this kind of a very respectful manner with each other, that what is this new thing, and listening and giving like new insights and perspective and sharing ideas. It's kind of super important.
It's interesting in the arts how there are these parts of, well, it's not like there is an art world, one art world or whatever, but people in the arts sometimes are very, forward-looking, forward-thinking and exploring new things. But then there are many people also who are very backward-looking and backward-thinking.
Super conservative.
Super conservative. Yeah. So for sure, I see the need for these kind of talks.
Yeah, and when I compare, for example, doctors for medical field, all this 3D printing, because it came there really fast. For example, dentists took it. I have a friend that's a dentist, so they took really fast this 3D printing teeth in ceramics, and it's like everyday practice there nowadays that you can do it. And in medicine you have a lot of this 3D printing, they use it in surgery and stuff like that. So when they study something and it shows that it saves human lives, the practice is going to be there to be used. But art world is super conservative. It's not that you say that I can make these objects and I have exhibitions and things like that. It doesn't happen like that. It's not, you can't have a paper that says that this is like relevant. It's the art people that decide what is relevant. So the discussion is there a bit difficult, because usually, for example, this eye, there's few people who actually know it in art scene. And there's a lot of people who are a bit afraid. So it's difficult to have this discussion that it gets like in a balanced way, that it doesn't get this polarized feeling. For example, I was doing digital drawing, and it was a bit like, are they actual art drawings? Because you take them from the computer screen. And for me, I didn't feel the difference. I was feeling that it's me who's creating, and I make the decision that this spot now is the kind of the composition of the colors and what is there is right. And now I make it into photography, that I 3D. I use this kind of a possibility that's nowadays possible. But I had this discussion that is it really art if you compare the real photography or real draws.
And then they had 100 years ago the same discussion about photography.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's always coming the same discussion that you have to like explain. And I was a bit unprepared, so that's why I started maybe explaining my works, that I'm doing this and that and what's happening. And for me it was important to like a bit open up what I'm doing. That this is a different process, but I feel it's an art process, because I'm on charge and I have the same kind of decisions what I use and what I don't use. And I didn't, because I had the previous art school, I didn't jump directly to digital part, so I felt that there's nothing different. The practice is exactly the same. That even if I use a pen, I can use it on screen. That there's no difference in it. I use lines there, I use in screen lines. I use forms there and I use their forms. I'm looking it around. And then when I 3D print it, I can post-process it. When I take the form out of mold, it's the same thing. I post-processed. I didn't see there no difference in that actual process. But of course, I have there the machine, which is a bit more complicated than my fingertip that I'm painting, or Japanese brush. But you have to like learn how you use the Japanese brush. It may take years, or watercolor, that you have that kind of a wrist and make the exact kind of things. But it's same with the machines, that they have lousy days and good days and and like that you get them do what you want, that the movement in the machine is exactly as you like put every screw and every air pressure and everything is perfect, and you mold it, the clay, that it exactly the right softness, and when it has a right pressure it comes as you like. And then surprise happens and you're like, oh, that looks much better. That I was doing these really tiny lines and now I want to make these big sausages. But that's you too, like artist is the kind that is always like developing the thing. That you destroy the best results you get. That you have like been half year, really preparing something, oh, it's perfect. And then something happens and you say, oh, I want to destroy what I did. It's better this new way.
That is true.
Yeah.
So what are you doing at the moment?
Well, at the moment I'm middle of this like Hauru project. It's this sea forest project that was in exhibition in Vilna, and I had a lot of like different porcelain clays that I was glazing and learning how to 3D print porcelain, and also like trying to find this a bit yellowish greenish color that they have underwater. And now I'm turning into corals, and I'm making exhibition to next fall that's called bleaching. And it's like the coral is for me this kind of a skull of this dead environment that's becoming dead. So I'm making these, I'm taking now the color off. I spent like 1 year studying all this glazing and how I make greens, especially with lanthan or super heavy metals, that how I get this certain kind of shades. And now I'm leaving it and I'm turning them totally white.
Speaking of, destroying your best.
Yeah, but you have to be ready for this. That now I have a super many my own like recipes of greens, like a book of green recipes mixing. That I was a chemist for a half year. And now I just turn that off, and now I go to form and I start doing more these coral forms.
Where are you going to have the exhibition?
It's going to be in this Galleria Katarina in Helsinki.
Okay. Next year at some point.
Next year. It's about 1 year from here. So it's like there's October I have the opening, so 1 year now. So I have some like basic stuff that I did with this Hauru project. I use these growth algorithms that I 3D model this kind of they're not fractals, but they are, I suppose, a bit like how organs are made in mathematical ways. That how they one finger becomes like a lot of like hairy fingers. That it's like this. First you have one
hairy fingers.
Yeah,
they cannot be not hairy.
Yeah. But like first you have cell, and then you have finger, and you have then 5 fingers. So I'm using these algorithms that are like you can see them grow in the computer. That first you have one finger, and then one finger, and then it like divides into many. So in animation you see them, and I stop it at a certain point, and then I just 3D print it.
When you say something like that, don't you think we are just biological machines?
Yeah, I suppose so. We are very complex kind of mathematically designed organs that I suppose basically they have structures like machines have, and they need some fuel like machines need electricity or whatever. So we are very, of course, very complex.
We are a bit more random than...
I suppose we can't be at all random. I suppose that's the frightening thing. We have a really narrow... Think about temperature. We die, fever goes up like 40
a
degrees.
Little bit.
Yeah, so we are super kind of strict in the narrowness. Like if you take some material, like some medicine, we can use it in really tiny kind of like strongness of the potion, and then we die. So we are like super trained, and this is the long evolution. And what's more frightening is the whole planet is like this. And we are like putting there now everything and like making this chaos everywhere, that we are a bit dangerous species. But in a sense, this is the fragility that I'm talking about. I was starting in my life thinking about my own fragility, then it may be others' fragility, and now I'm moving to the fragility of this system. But I feel that it's super fragile, and then thinking that...
but then in the same time, it's been there for so long, it can't be that fragile.
Yeah, and in a way it's very resilient, and it comes again. That if we kill everything, there comes something new. But in a way, it is in a way for your lifetime. Your life is very fragile, so that's the fragility. But the system is the kind that it's because it's somehow run with the energy. That energy is making these amino acids and every chemical structure there is, they're gonna just build themselves if there's enough water and sun power. So they're gonna like build themselves. So, but our unique life, and I suppose as we life see now, is fragile. But it's going to change. And the change is, of course, a bit frightening. But as an artist, of course, if you're really anarchist, you would be really happy about this situation. Now, let's have a biggest climate change.
Let's make it bigger.
And I remember as a child, I really loved all this catastrophe plays, that now we have a lot of floods and forest fires, and all my little tigers and giraffes and everybody in Savannah were going somewhere, and I was rescuing them. But I suppose that's the situation of life at the moment, that we are causing a lot of risk to the life as we see it now. And of course, it's a bit frightening to us. And we are to blame. We feel a bit guilty about this nasty, because we are not just playing and we are causing it. So we have this guilty conscience about everything. We are that kind of a species. I think if we were lions, they wouldn't care. They would keep on eating everybody.
But then they wouldn't create all these massive, destructive things.
Yeah.
So
we are humans. We have luckily this guilty conscience.
Well, some people do, some people don't.
Yeah, and I suppose it's somehow maybe something to do with change also, that we can change our habits, because I don't think it's guilty conscious, but we reflect on things. That what I did and what happened, and we can a bit try to change it. So that's a bit like hope for things that, and I think artists can show that, okay, we adapt into things, and we are super poor and we do things, we don't stop creating, and we do things in like various conditions and in jails and wherever people are. So they still try to keep the mental stability, and they create, and they're able to do it. I suppose it's like where you move as an artist, that somehow at some points it somehow turns, sometimes you work outside this kind of political issues, but I feel it a bit that there's this different levels of art, that everybody, there's this semantic kind of an art that everybody understands, that you don't have to explain, or that you see an art piece so you somehow understand that, okay, that reflects to me. And then this syntactic kind of an level where you do some new things, that you develop technology, that you're using print books, or you do something like 3D printer, or you have some whatever craft, but you develop it and you can like see there the development, that what's happening there. And then there's this kind of a pragmatic field, that it's a political importance, that it somehow is relevant suddenly.
And then it's not.
Yeah, and suddenly. And it happens like that. It's old-fashioned suddenly, but somehow at some points also may happen in artist career, that sometimes you do things that are a bit relevant and sometimes they are not, and you can't predict that.
Yeah. I've been very curious lately. I mean, this is maybe going back to a bit what we were talking about before that, about the technology and the human impact on the planet and stuff, but about how technology affects our evolution. Does it leave a mark deep enough for the evolution of the humans? What do you think?
Well, if we start manipulating the genes, so I suppose it has this possibility really impact. That they can produce rabbits that have kind of a really weird color, for example. So there you can directly see. But I suppose it's a bit controlled, especially in EU. But we have like produced DNA manipulated plants. So we are, I think, also we are not talking about that so much because we have other issues. But I think it's happening that we are changing also the genome of our kind of an biological beings. So I suppose there's no area that humans wouldn't in a way change if it's not regulated. So in a way, even I like freedom, so there has to be also borders, that love and borders, that you can't be totally like changing everything and without caring what others think about it, that you have to discuss a bit before you do something. That's kind of an important if you do something that is totally new and that goes with like a DNA manipulation or AI stuff, that we should discuss about those issues before companies start doing things secretly and behind.
I think they do it
their doors.
Yeah,
they're doing it.
As
they did it Facebook and everything, but it's like we should at least try. That's the thing. That's the thing that need to be kind of an also big issues. But that art needs funding also, because they are so difficult things that you can't just suddenly become like familiar with these things. You have to have time to reflect and think about those things. And education is super important too, that you have good kind of in schools where people talk about these issues, but also like art organization and artists need like money to be able to like really think about these things.
Yeah, for sure. You can't. I mean, there's the Maslow's pyramid for a reason.
Yeah,
it doesn't come out of nothing.
Yeah, that's the problem, that it's easier to keep on doing what we did before. But then somebody comes and says that, oh, we have a problem, so it needs a lot of energy to prove it. For a long time I was using these human beings and I was trying to combine them, and I felt a lot of that. I was somehow going through this, that things are changing so very fast, time is fleeting. So I suppose, thinking a lot of like time, that how I get time and this movement to sculpture was kind of an important to me, that I see this change from my son to my husband, so somehow fleeting time in it, and that theme was very important that time, because my son was growing and I was doing art and things were like always when you were doing something else you were maybe thinking that I should be doing that thing and things like that. So how I spend my time in this life, that was very important at time to me. Then before that I was making more like these figurative human beings, and I was a bit more thinking there, this fragility of human beings, and I make these skinned human beings and thinking about maybe like that if you take all the like a skin and stuff, so we female and male look a bit same and the age and things like that disappear. Maybe things like that were important to me at that kind of a phase, that it was kind of a reaction for my art school period, that I was doing a lot of like studies of human anatomy, and then it was a bit like it's not real art, that then you have your own real art. But I wanted to somehow use that one, that it was important to me, that I used actually the anatomical stuff, that I put it into my artworks. And now I suppose I have this more shift to abstract things, that I love a lot how those algorithms are making the forms, and I'm trying to like figure out what they're coming, and then suddenly I somehow think that okay, they look a bit like corals and they look a bit like corals, and what's going to happen. Then I start thinking about, and then suddenly I'm thinking about if I put them white, they're so totally dead. And so it's kind of more now shifting from maybe human figure to more abstract figures and nature figures.
So how do you sustain your practice now that you're no longer a doctor?
Well, I do public sculptures, I teach, and then I have some organization work. So money comes from different kind of flows, and sometimes I get scholarships, but that's how I try to maintain, and I try to, of course, economize my life. I have my studio in Helsinki in my home, so I don't have to pay big kind of rents and things like that. But you have to think about a lot. And I have a company, so of course I buy materials for my company money and have tax reductions and things like that. But you have to, in a way, of course, think that it's not the same level of living as average people live. Artists have to, like, if you invest into 3D printers and things like that, it's away from car, or if you buy a lot of like materials, it's away from your other stuff. You have to always decide between. But it's like a struggle, as it is, you know, artists struggle their life to survive and be able to do art. But that's how it is. And I suppose we all know that artists are super poor, and they, I suppose, will always be a bit like that. It's because when you innovate something, it's super new. So you don't produce it the rest of your life. If you make one innovation and would keep on doing it, then you would get this kind of a bit more easier lifestyle. But if you keep innovating and always make new things, so it's super difficult. And it's super competitive. And
then there's always the balance of if you start repeating the same thing that was successful, aren't you going to get bored?
Yes.
So then you're going to want to do something else and innovate in another direction.
Yeah. But that's how you make the decisions. And I try to a bit compete also abroad. I compete in Sweden and things like that. So I have a bit like bigger area where I try to then.
By compete, you mean
these are public sculpture competitions. You can participate also in Scandinavia. So you always can go a bit abroad also. So you have to have a bit like all nets.
Yeah.
In all like lakes you have.
Nets in different lakes.
Something, yeah.
So you focus now on public sculpture more than.
Well, I think it's about like 1/3 there. 1/3 my own art practices, and 1/3 is then this teaching and something else. It's kind of a balance between that. I try to have enough time for my also like artist practice, that otherwise I would be doing it all the night, so it's a bit unhealthy. But I've been done that with 3D printing because the prints get long time, but clay
then
printing.
You leave them and then
when I started the area, studied this 3D printing, you couldn't leave them. They started burning these printers and things like that. So you were really like watching, and the filament could like
get stuck
and things like that. So a lot of it was white. But nowadays printers are really good. But in the early days it was a lot of like long nights, checking printers and things like that.
Oh. I got a 3D pen some time ago, and it was just so just doodle something there. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, technology is making wonderful things all the time, so just enjoy them.
Have you ever had a creative block in your work?
I suppose I don't know what it means actually, a block in a way. I suppose
you always crisis when you
because I think you have all the time you are in a crisis in a way that it's like when you have a nice day as a creative person, because you are dealing with something that you've never done before, so you have just problems and you have a lot of anxieties, so you're all the time a bit insecure. But in a way, you know that I have delivered this baby so many times that I'm in a way a bit like calm with that thing, that I know that it's going to be done. Because my background is the kind that my father had a lot of sisters and brothers, and every summer they were building somebody's summer cottage. And then they started building houses, and everybody helped each other. So I saw, and I was also like there taking bricks and things like that. So I saw that, they decide that they build a summer cottage, it was done. They decide they build a house, it was done. So I have this, I suppose, a kind of a positive thinking on that. You design, you have idea, you have hope of summer cottage.
You trust.
You discuss about it, and you have a lot of arguments that what kind of you have there, what kind of walls you have there, and a lot of kind of disagreements and a lot of fights in family, and a lot of kind of what you're doing, and a lot of fights with uncles that you don't know, and I know how the bricks are laid and things like that. And then it's finalized. I know that I have a lot of ideas, so I suppose it's just that my problem is supposed that what idea I start doing. So that's so good that you have exhibition coming or public sculpture coming, because you know that you are doing that, but actually I'm not always so certain for my day what I'm going to do, but because I have deadlines, I know that I have to do at least that a bit. but then I try to keep this kind of a creative pool open, that I have like playful time and ideas that I play. But I suppose in that sense I don't have this block, or it doesn't last very long, because I get these ideas.
You go to another idea when you feel like
that. Yeah. So it's I suppose that I have ideas that are keep coming, and I just have to decide what I do. But I don't feel that kind of that blockage in that sense. But I understand the blockage that you don't, for example, you participate in the competitions and you make you think that, oh, my proposal was so wonderful, and you don't get like a gallery space or whatever. So I think that blockage is more that kind of a thing, I suppose, and that can be a bit strenuous. That how to get over that thing that you get turned down. But at this age, you are also used a bit about that. Sometimes you get your ideas delivered, and sometimes not. So you just have to also deal with that thing that you don't get everything delivered. But then you keep on your daily practice in your kind of a studio, that you do print something and think about that, and what would that be, and how you would develop that, and what happens if you change something and things like that. More mystery that but I'm for example, that work there that look a bit like a bone structure, so I don't know what I'm doing, so that's more like confusing for me. It's a bit abstract, and what's going to be in my kind of an artist next step. So it's kind of because I'm making this bleaching work, so, and at the same time I'm making that one, so it's not really coral, so what it is, so I'm a bit like confused. It turned out like that.
It just happened.
Yeah, it's a bit dividing. Yeah, that's more like that I'm this awful bridge that try to hold this both, and or this yeah.
You like to make sense of the work.
Yeah. Like, and it's sometimes very confusing, and it takes time that I get like where it is like in my like mindset, that where's the place for it. With that bleaching, actually it's kind of boring now that I know that I'm making this bleaching, because it's kind of I make that, and it's kind of verbalized, but that's more like drawn, because it's a mystery, that what is it? And it's like I always go and watch, what is it? And the other one there, they look so weird, and what are they? I'm like a bit weird things in my studio.
So do you usually have everything crystallized in your head before you do it?
Yeah, because for public sculpture competitions, it's like you have this period where you have to have idea, and then you 3D model it, and then you like make the budget. So in a way, you have this kind of really you have to train a bit like in competition. I was not at all interested about sports, but this later age I have started competing with these sculpture competitions. So it's a bit funny, but you develop in that also, in that sports. And you want to a bit like win too.
I bet you want to win, of course. I don't think anybody goes into a competition being like, it's great that I'm gonna lose today.
Yeah, but it's like so you start having this sports thing in your life, and it's much more like directed for the results. But in a way, art practice is not, of course, that. It's more like that mystery part. But then you have to like accept that. But when you do a lot of like that kind of things, they start making sense when you do something that people would actually have in their lives. And then somehow when you move between these two, it's kind of a good thing. I need them both. But yes.
But those are in the corner there.
Yeah, they are in the corner because I have to keep them in my presence. They remind me that there's something happening in me, and there's something very alive, but I still don't know what it is. It's a bit mystery.
Do you usually involve your family and friends in your art? I mean, you mentioned that you were making sculptures of your...
Yeah, it was a period that I used a lot of like my husband and my son, that they were available and I was taking pictures on them. And then I made some portraits, but in a way not so much like, for example, my parents, have not been using them a lot, or like it's more like some passers-by that I noticed that their form is interesting, so I start doing it, but not in that sense that I would categorically start like doing artwork of my family, for example. It's not like that. It's just more like that they present some kind of an human being, and I just take it as a form and try to make it like some kind of a story of what is happening to the form, but not in a way that they should be a specific person, that I make it in that sense.
I mean, involving somebody is a broad term. It can mean many things also.
And I've done some portraits that people have wanted to like of there. But in a way, I feel it's a bit more commission work. And with these my own works that I just use my husband and my son, I get into more like abstract level. That there's this I can play a bit more. But when you have a pressure that you have to have it ready in 3 months and they want this and that, so in a way I feel that it may be even a bit disturbing for my creative process. But my family, I feel very secure. They've been here always, so I'm not afraid to show them whatever. They've seen different kind of versions of themselves, so they are not like appalled. So it doesn't like interfere so much my process.
By portraits, do you mean like a 3D printed portraits?
The process in a way that I've did some scanned versions of my husband and son and 3D printed them. They are a bit fragile and in a way some versions, or then this kind of an really wavy kind of sculptures. But in a way I keep this freedom. I know these persons and I feel very secure with them, so I can express whatever. It's like, that people can use their dogs, cats, their pots, plants, whatever, what they have at home. An artist usually use what is near. It doesn't have to be so super kind of difficult that you... So I like it in a way that I feel they're on my life every day, and it's very easy and accessible, and I take picture and I don't have to ask them permission. It all makes it more complicated when you start doing with something like that. It's a bit further from your like a home.
Do you have some routines in your work of how you come and actually do it?
Well, I try to keep it in a way that I in a way 3D, when I do this 3D printing, so I 3D model something and then I come here to studio and then 3D print it, that there's this shift that you are first make it like I had in school years, that first we draw something and then we did it in clay. So I have this kind of that I first in my computer place and then I come here and start doing this 3D printing. So, and when I see the print, I may decide, I want to have something a bit different, that maybe layer height is different, or I put it in a different organization. So I'm changing it all the time. So it's kind of a living process. So I see the result and next day I do something else. So basically that's a bit like my routine, that I come here and of course I have these routines that I wedge clay and clean the machines and things like that. So there's also this kind of a bit not so like a super posh things, but they are also like routines that I do, that I come here and take at the end of the week. I like to a bit clean this place, but not always, but like trying to get this a bit more organized, because everything is super messy and things like that.
I mean, it doesn't look messy at all for a place where you actually deal with clay.
Yeah, but you have to like clean it all the time, because I get this cough, so I have to like clean the floors and things like that. So it's a very kind of an important for me. This also this, and I can't get inside the clay any like particles of anything else. So I have to have a bit like clean place where I wedge the clay, and so I have to keep these in a way, these cleaning routines also in a way that they somehow help me to get what I'm experimenting. But it's kind of I just keep it that way, that those are my main routines. And I'm like early waker. I wake up very early, so it's important to me like start working something like 7-8 o'clock, and then I have a lunch break and then come here to this dirty side, and there I spent many hours here. So I can't eat and stuff like that because I don't want to have like any glazing materials into my systems. But yeah, that's how it is. And it's nothing really posh or something. I'm usually super dirty when I'm here, like making the clay. So not something.
When it comes out of the 3D printer, I was thinking, does it come? I mean, it's still sort of soft, right?
Yeah, it's super soft. But
haven't you thought of like manipulating it with your hands after?
Yeah,
that?
you can do whatever you want with it. You can totally like put it together, and it's like it's absolutely moldable, and you can like cut parts of it and stuff like that. So you can do whatever you like.
Because usually when I've seen, I guess people like to just show off how they have 3D printed something and it's all perfect. But
yeah,
I've been thinking, okay, well, why don't you like just punch it there with a thumb or something? Because it is going to make it so interesting. Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, and anyway, it's like it's totally different than plastic. That it's like a hard like that, but you can put it over something and bend it and whatever you want to do it. So it's like you can do whatever you want it. So it's super, because clay is much more plastic before you like start harden it. But I may have some kind of an idea that I'm after some form, and I'm just playing more with that this kind of or that I would like to have some plaster material that I start like bending my work on that. So it's more like that. Mm-hmm. But maybe not so much with hand, that I would press it with hand, because I love a bit the surface, how they come. So there are some surfaces that I really don't want to like break the surfaces. I in a way like how they come out. That I want that I don't have any like finger, because I spent a lot of time how they knitting the clay. So I don't want to have any like touch there.
Interesting. You said you work alone here in like it's next to your house. It's like a garage space. Do you have some other artists nearby, or like some sort of a community, or is that important for you?
Well, for this 3D printing, not so much like
no, for you as an artist generally, not like the 3D printing.
But I'm very much involved in this kind of art scene. So I've been like this art organization member of them, and doing a lot of this kind of an organization work. So it's kind of an important to have colleagues and things like that. And then I teach in Aalto and also in Kuvataidealan Akatemia. So in a way, there you get a lot of this discussion and reflection about things. So it's in a way, I suppose, I like also being with myself, but I like to socialize when I'm with people. So I think one of the artist's kind of a main thing may be that you have to a bit be able to also like be with yourself. That you know, I suppose my problem is that I would like to spend a bit more time in my studio than everywhere else. That's my kind of an important thing in a sense. Yeah, trying to keep in that way. I've been in a lot of groups, but there's not so many people that are making actually digital art that it would be like that. There's this Jukka Hautamäki's groups, but it's not super active at the moment. But we have had some exhibitions and things like that. But I suppose artists that are using 3D printing are not so super common yet.
I guess, yeah.
It's a bit. It needs that you have these machines and things like that, or they don't advertise themselves a lot. But there are some. I'm not really felt that it's a big problem for me in that sense. That there's a lot of like, if you have a problem with modeling or something like that, there's always these artists that are doing and giving their own like information in websites and things like that. So you can also find info from places like that.
Okay, let's then turn maybe a little bit towards the studio space, because this is also a big part of the podcast
Mm-hmm.
usually. How big is your studio?
This is something like, I think, 45 square meters. That's, yeah. And 2.5 meters, a bit bigger, 7.5 meters high.
I mean, it's really big for a garage.
Yeah, there used to be this guy who built the house. He had small minibuses. So he was building 2 garages, this inside house, and this is quite big. And this has really big doors. I made them a bit smaller because it was difficult to open them, but the whole back wall was just doors. And they were always slamming super open. So I made a bit small, I suppose, thought that I'm not going to make so super big sculptures here, that it's enough for me to have smaller doors.
How long has this been in your studio?
Well, 20 years, but I repaired it 2 years ago, and it's still going on, but I started 2 years ago. So it has this asbestos lining because the guy was welding here a lot, his buses, so it has like fireproof walls and inside and outside. So I made it that it has now.
Wasn't asbestos bad for the health to be used?
Yeah, and it's used a lot in like these garage places. But there's this company who took everything off, and now I have these fireproof Kyprock walls, so I can still weld here and things like that. But
do you weld?
Yeah, of course. You have to weld as a sculptor.
I mean, if you do ceramic sculptures, you don't need to weld anything.
Yeah, I know, but of course I have laser cutting things and things like that. So I have welding machines there in my other garage. So
okay.
But I can bring them here and weld here too. Outside, of course.
Oh God. What do you like most about this space? What is your favorite part?
I suppose the light is wonderful when you come here. So it's wonderful to be here, and it's a natural light a lot here, and then the calmness and peacefulness, and then I suppose the most important thing, it's my place. It's just mine. I'm greedy. My husband is complaining that you have that own place, and I have none. I don't have my man cave, but I have mine.
Well, he should just claim some part of your house as his man cave then.
Yeah. But it's also about the character that the artist, I suppose. When I was small, I remember that I started making my own room from our home, that we were living in a really small room home, and in this inside, when you come inside the house, there's a place where you keep your shoes. So there was a narrow place where a little girl can go, and I put there my place, and I said to my parents and father that I now have my room here. That you knock the door when you come in, and my father decided, okay, maybe we build this system that you will slip up doors in this corner of our room, and then you have your own room down. So I had parents that understood very early on that I need my own room, and after that I had my room always. So,
have you ever shared a space with other people?
I suppose I like a lot that I have my own room. So I don't, in a way, I suppose it would be a bit difficult for me in a sense work totally together with somebody because I have everything here. But of course I share my home with somebody, so it's a bit different. But I don't know. I early on had this wish to have my own room, and it was made possible to me. And even we lived in really small quarters, I always had it. And also when we moved here, I in a way, my husband and we were looking for a house that had this place for me. It was kind of it's in a way that I suppose to be an artist, you need somehow space for yourself. Even you're a writer, you seem to need it. That I don't know, is it a mental thing also? But I don't know how humans are constructed. But
I mean, it seems very natural because people have always wanted to have their own space and build like a
and I don't know
something.
If you are not turned down when you are a child, when you say that I need this space and you are given it, and it somehow happens many times, then it starts happening in your life. But if you have, like my husband has one sister and 2 brothers, it was impossible. So he got used to the idea that he has always others with him. So it was in a way different, and he's not so eager for it. But of course, I was only child, so it was possible for my parents to give me the possibility. I'm thankful for it also.
Yeah, I never thought about the fact that people who have siblings actually maybe perceiving this differently.
yeah, and that's how we start separating in a way. That's our narrative start to like go in the different directions, and of course you got into different like professions. I would have liked to do film, but I suppose because I want my own space, it was
film
more,
is such a group effort.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm social, but because I don't have had siblings, I need a lot of my own time. So visual art is better for me, I suppose, for my kind of an story, where background I come from. I would have liked to have a lot of like sisters, and I had a lot of friends, but still it's different when you don't share all the time with someone else. So it's very different, but that's how it is. So I don't know how it's with other people. But of course, workplaces are nowadays quite chaotic because it's expected that you have like open studios. But I suppose I'm still a bit like a person that even if
I think people were very unhappy when that happened.
Yeah.
For Aalto especially, I remember.
Yeah.
They were so complaining how there's this only open spaces and no personal room or atelier of any sort.
Yeah. But that's somehow that I try to, wherever I am, I just create my cube. I go concentrating that I create the room somewhere. And I suppose it was in Academy of Fine Arts also a bit battle that you find your own room, but we all like made walls.
Yeah, I haven't been to the Academy of Fine Arts before they built that building now that they are in. But that reminded me so much of the Värö building in Aalto. It was like the same pattern. Huge open space. It just didn't have the wood that Aalto had, like inside. But like concrete shape, it was the same kind of thing.
But people start building walls. They need borders and own space. It's kind of a human need, I suppose, a bit, that you have a nest, that you have the security and coziness, and that's what you need. It's a kind of an...
So we have something in common with cats.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Like to be in a box.
All animals want to be inside some kind of a shape.
Yeah, maybe it's just the security of things. And
that it's just,
shelter and stuff.
Yeah, and also you have your stuff there, and of course it's easier if you have a lot of people coming and going. Your works are going to destroy, and you lose your tools and things like that. So it's also a very kind of a practical thing for our kind of species, that you just build some kind of a thing where you have everything handy, that you don't have to look around everything all the time. Even I have to, but it's my blame. I can't say that neighbors did it.
Do you go to exhibitions?
Yeah, last week there was one opening, and also like in sculptor there was this Jyrki Siukonen and Johan Luthov's exhibition. So yeah, of course you have to go. It's kind of important that you see because it's in a way, most of those in sculpture circles you start knowing people, and they are people a bit, I don't say they are friends, but they are people you know. So it's interesting to see what's happening in the Korea, and also be surprised that when they do something different. So there's usually something that evokes you in some kind of a bit like a wonder and amazement. Okay, thinking like this, that I didn't think about this way, and how it's kind of and it also deepens your own work. You start thinking.
It gives you ideas for sure.
Yeah, it gives you ideas, and thinking, okay, that it's interesting that thinking in some other way the same thing gives you also kind of tools for yourself. And it's good to like use this as an empathy instrument, because we are always reflecting things. So when you go in exhibitions, art is a very complex way of like talking about with other people, but also very enjoyable way. And you have to a bit learn. And when you go to your first exhibitions, you see them very differently than you've gone through art schools and looking your like teachers' whole careers and see what they do. So it's very interesting, like I see. At my age, I'm almost 60, so it's almost like you see that what's happening. an art scene. So of course you want to keep up and see what's happening still. A bit curious. And also like...
I think this is not about age, the curiosity. You know, have to nurture it and keep it, and it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah, and
you can still be very curious.
Also like it's kind of a super, like they opened, I went to this Pirkko Rantatorika's exhibition. She was my teacher of graphics, and then there's Jyrki Siukas's, my sculpture professor's exhibition. So it's kind of that you see them working the whole career, and I've been now in art scene like 20 years, so it's kind of super interesting to see what people are doing and what's happening in art scene, and also like thinking that I may be a tiny part also in it, that we are all like we are here the moment, and we are doing works and they have impact on everybody. That you go there and you are a bit like, still going strong. That's kind of a comforting thought. And being brave and doing brave things, and that's kind of an also thing that you do something boldly, that you are standing behind your works, and that's also very beautiful, because you have to always a bit protect your child.
Yes, of course. Your child is the best one.
Yeah. That's the thing, and it's the youngest usually when you are exhibiting it.
Yes. What would be some artists that you follow their work?
Well, I of course there's many, but at the moment I suppose I like a lot like Jukka Hautamäki's work, because he's doing this AI-based kind of things. Then there's of course Pasi Rauhala is doing super kind of complicated public sculptures, like in Aalto there's this kind of screen that is totally like a bend in really beautiful form, and then there's this kind of is it mycelium or something organic in the video that's been like, and it's changing, I suppose. And
where is it there?
It's in Aalto building.
The main building.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know the name of all the buildings. I always get confused there, but in the main building. So
okay.
Yeah. So it's like so those are like in a way super interesting for me. And then there's of course Finnish sculptures that are doing. Anssi Pulkkinen is doing, I suppose, a lot of like stuff that are almost like a international level. And I think he started this 3D modeling very early also. And Taneli Rautiainen also like super interesting stuff what they're doing. So respect a lot their works also and things like that. And as females artists for ceramics, I love Emma Helle's works. She was studying at the same time as me and super kind of interested about this anatomical stuff and keeping it and making this super like a live human experiments with clay. So I love them a lot. So there are a lot of these artists that are inspiring, like endless list almost.
Yeah, of course. This is already great amount.
Yeah. But they are like those that I admire a lot, and I go to see every exhibition that they have here in Helsinki. So it's kind of
And maybe lastly, really, what are some other places of inspiration for you?
I suppose if I exclude my home, and I suppose the other one is in a way the city that I still love.
You don't have to exclude your home if your couch is very inspiring.
It's super. But I still, in a way, like to go to buses and draw people. That almost like I feel a bit shamed that when I go and I would like to draw, and it's a bit a cliche, but still like making croquis of a city. It's kind of an interesting, and also like nature inspiring. And I also in trips, my husband is, why are you carrying these heavy, they have metal box watercolors in these hikes to Norway mountains, and it's really boring that you don't bring the food at all, that I have to carry your water and all these biscuits. But
are you bringing the food for the soul?
Yeah, but that's the thing that, but in trips, that when you go to nature, I usually have watercolors with myself. It's a bit also cliche that I paint these like landscapes. But but they're totally out of my normal thing. So they are in a way that I just am totally free. I need that space. But then, of course, what happens in the computer screen, it's then that draws me back into what I'm doing, and it's in a way these softwares that are super interesting. What's happening with them too? So real life and this virtual kind of a complex situation. That's good for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this talk.
Yeah.
It's been really
Thank
nice.
you that you came. I'm so grateful that someone is like trying to a bit open what we do. And show it too. So it's kind of
I mean, I find it very interesting what we do, and why not show other people?
Yes, because it's so short period people see the works, but
and they usually see the final thing that you have done, but they don't know what stands behind it.
Yeah, that's the thing. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.